Paul Finebaum accuses Deion Sanders of hypocrisy over NIL salary cap debate. A collision of legacy, power, and college football's future. In a sports media landscape that thrives on polarizing opinions and headline-making statements, few names stir the pot quite like Paul Finebaum. And once again, the veteran broadcaster has found himself in the center of controversy. This time by taking aim at none other than Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. With the backdrop of the Big 12 Media Days setting the tone for the upcoming college football season, Sanders' remarks on name, image, and likeness, nil, and revenue sharing have ignited a storm of debate. But it was Finebaum's response that truly set off a media firestorm, accusing Sanders of blatant hypocrisy. The comment that sparked the conflict? Deion Sanders, in a candid moment during the Big 12 Media Days, suggested that college football needs a salary cap. You got a guy that's not that darn good, but he could go to another school and they give him $500,000 and you can't compete with that. And it don't make sense, Sanders lamented. But if Coach Prime thought he was merely echoing a concern shared by countless college football insiders, administrators, and coaches, he quickly found out that his words, given his stature and history, wouldn't go unchallenged, especially not by Paul Finebaum. The clash of titans. Sanders' stardom versus Finebaum's fire. Deion Sanders has always been a lightning rod in football, whether dazzling on the field as a Hall of Fame cornerback or commanding the sideline as one of college football's most charismatic coaches. His transition from Jackson State to Colorado transformed him into the face of an HBCU revolution, and later into one of the most talked-about figures in Power 5 football. But with visibility comes vulnerability. And Sanders' statements about the increasing disparity caused by nil dollars, which he argues is destroying parity in college football, quickly drew ire from pundits, fans, and critics alike. Leading the charge was Finebaum, the outspoken ESPN analyst known for his fearless commentary and decades-long presence in college football discourse. Appearing on First Take, Finebaum wasted no time in launching a direct attack. I find it just a tad bit interesting and maybe a slight bit hypocritical, Finebaum began, that Deion Sanders, after his two great players, in terms of Travis Hunter, one of the best players in modern college football history, as they depart, suddenly Deion wants the cap. In one stroke, Finebaum accused Sanders of opportunism, of conveniently shifting his stance now that two of his biggest assets, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, are gone. According to Finebaum, had Sanders still retained those high-dollar stars, there would be no salary cap conversation. Would Deion have been in favor of a cap then? Of course not, he added pointedly. A closer look at Coach Prime's comments. To unpack this media feud, we must first understand what exactly Deion Sanders said and why it struck such a nerve. In his address, Sanders voiced concerns shared by many that nil money is creating an uneven playing field. You're going to see the same teams in the playoff every year because those teams are spending $25 to $30 million building their rosters, he stated. Sanders wasn't alone in this sentiment. Many coaches, both vocal and discreet, have lamented the same. But the issue with Sanders' remarks, according to Finebaum, isn't the message, it's the messenger. When Deion Sanders brought five-star recruit Travis Hunter to Jackson State, it sent shockwaves across college football. Hunter could have chosen any school in the country. Instead, he chose to follow Coach Prime to an FCS program, and then again to Boulder. While many celebrated it as a revolutionary cultural move, others speculated the decision wasn't without financial motivation. That's where Finebaum's accusation of hypocrisy strikes hardest. The ESPN host implied that Sanders himself had benefited from the very system he now seeks to restrain. Nil's explosive growth and the case for a cap. To be fair, Sanders' core message, about the need to impose some financial constraints to preserve competitive balance, is not radical. Since the NCAA allowed nil deals in July 2021, college athletics has undergone seismic changes. Recruiting no longer depends solely on facilities or tradition, but increasingly on how much cash a program's collective can offer. Programs like Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, and USC have poured millions into building competitive rosters. And with no cap in sight, college football risks becoming a pay-to-play landscape, driven more by donors than development. So when Sanders argues that a cap could level the playing field, he's speaking to a legitimate concern. But Finebaum's critique isn't about the idea, it's about timing and credibility. What changed for Coach Prime? Finebaum insinuated that Deion's sudden advocacy for regulation stems from his depleted roster. With Shedeur Sanders now with the Cleveland Browns and Travis Hunter potentially eyeing the 2026 NFL Draft, Colorado no longer commands the nil clout it once did. The Buffaloes, who shocked the nation with a 3-0 start in 2023 before unraveling, are entering the 2025 season with significantly lower expectations. Deion is simply trying to tell the media, hey, let's talk about something other than my football team, which is going to be painfully boring and perhaps even mediocre this year, Finebaum jabbed. The loyalty of Travis Hunter, more than money. Yet Finebaum's argument loses steam when you consider Hunter's own words and actions. The Florida native could have easily signed with a powerhouse like Alabama or Georgia. Instead, he shocked the nation by joining Coach Prime at Jackson State. And when Sanders moved to Colorado, Hunter followed, despite receiving massive nil offers elsewhere. Hunter's loyalty wasn't just rare, it was historic. His decision to take a discount to continue playing under Sanders defied the norms of college football economics. It also showcased that, despite the explosion of NIL, belief in a coach and culture still matters. So when Finebaum implies that Sanders only landed Hunter due to financial advantage, it undercuts a broader story of player-coach loyalty that transcended the dollar signs. The media's obsession with Deion, a double-edged sword. It's also impossible to ignore the spotlight Deion Sanders lives under. Any comment he makes is bound to be dissected, twisted, or taken out of context. When a lesser-known coach like Indiana's Curt Cignetti or Arizona State's Kenny Dillingham talks NIL, the headlines are minor. But when Coach Prime does, it becomes front-page material. Part of that is by design. Sanders thrives in the media spotlight. His charisma, flair, and quotability make him a media darling, but also a target. And critics like Finebaum are quick to pounce on any inconsistency, real or perceived. But isn't Paul Finebaum being hypocritical too? Here's where things get interesting. Paul Finebaum himself has long warned about the dangers of an unregulated nil system. He's called for greater oversight, transparency, and accountability, often decrying the Wild West of college football. So when he bashes Sanders for voicing the exact same concerns, the question must be asked, isn't that, in his own words, a slight bit hypocritical? The answer may lie in ego, rivalry, or the simple mechanics of sports media. Finebaum knows a hot take on Deion will grab eyeballs, and Sanders, knowingly or not, often provides plenty of material. Where does college football go from here? As the nil debate rages on, what's clear is that college football stands at a crossroads. The current trajectory favors rich schools and donor-backed collectives, making it harder for underdogs to compete. Salary caps, standardized nil contracts, and revenue-sharing models are all being explored, but no clear solution has emerged. Deion Sanders, regardless of timing or perception, is adding his voice to a necessary conversation. And if critics like Finebaum truly care about the future of the sport, they might want to focus less on who's delivering the message and more on the message itself. Final thoughts. Hypocrisy or honesty? Is Deion Sanders a hypocrite for suddenly calling for financial regulation now that his top stars are gone? Or is he simply evolving with the game and realizing what's at stake for college football's soul? Perhaps both can be true. Sanders has always been a master of timing, but that doesn't invalidate his concerns. And while Finebaum is right to call out inconsistencies, he too must be careful not to turn a genuine debate into a personal feud. One thing is certain, this won't be the last time these two titans of media and football clash. But hopefully, amid the fireworks, the conversation leads to something more than just clicks and controversy. Hopefully, it leads to solutions,